All righty, all righty. We are live, and I got to tell you, I am super fired up. We have really been blessed to have Jordan Adler come on the show here with us. Jordan is going to be coming and talking with us, obviously, a little bit about some everyday success habits with network marketing and what he's done to be super successful in the industry. Jordan, thank you so much for coming down. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here, Brian. It's nice to see you. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, let me read a quick little bit. If people have not heard of Jordan, Jordan at 34 years of age was living in an enclosed garage. So I actually, when I was read this the first time, I didn't know, I don't think any of this. So this might be news for people. His rent was $200 a month, and he had two roommates. He carried $36,000 in credit card debt on 22 credit cards, and you had a job that paid you about $14,000 a year. Over the past 27 years, which is hard to believe because you still look like you might be 27 or maybe 35 or something like that. Over the past 27 years, he's become one of the top network marketers in the world. Jordan wrote the book, which was a worldwide bestseller, called Beach Money. 100% of his profits go to charity. That is Kiva.org. That would be KIVA.org. His book's been out for 13 years, still sells thousands of copies. Recently launched a second book, Better Than Beach Money, a couple of years ago, so that would be 2019. And Jordan splits his time between two mountain homes, a condo in Vegas on the Strip, and of course, the beach. 6 years ago, he decided to get his helicopter's pilot's license for fun, which he is scheduled to become the first network marketer to fly to space. I saw that as a part of Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic Civilian Space Program. Jordan believes a big dream will go and a will to work will go a long way, and never quit is his secret to success. Again, Jordan, I am super excited. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, one of the things I want to start off with kind of how we met. We were on, I was actually on a podcast with Dr. Ivan Meisner and Tom Chenault.
Yep.
And this was maybe about 2 months ago. And you were on it. You were nice enough to be, listening or whatever. And that's kind of how we were able to connect and stuff like that.
Comments, and you started responding.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Tom and Adrian are very close personal friends, and Dr. Ivan Meisner. I mean, we were at Necker Island. We're good friends, but we were at Necker Island together with Richard Branson about 2 years ago, right before the pandemic hit. In fact, if the pandemic had been 2 weeks later, myself and Ivan would have been stuck with Richard Branson on his island for a long period of time.
Which may or may not have worked out.
No, but when I saw you on there, I'm going, okay, I'm good friends with Tom. I'm good friends with Adrian. I'm good friends with Dr. Ivan Meisner. I gotta become friends with Brian too, if he's on there as well.
I don't think you said that, but I appreciate you saying that. It was, it's really good to be able to have a relationship with people. That's the point. You know what I mean? Where when you see things going on, to be able to have a relationship with them. And like you said, with Dr. Meisner, the founder of networking, of BNI, and the father of modern day networking, was what I was trying to say, was really, really good. So thank you for being able to connect and do some of those things like that. Thank you for the kind words.
You wrote a book with Dr. Meisner as well, right?
I did. We wrote a couple of books, Networking Like a Pro, and we were, we did the second edition, maybe it was before the pandemic as well, so maybe 4 years ago. And yeah, I had a chance to get out there and do some stuff with him and hang out at his house, actually, as well. So that's some really, really good stuff. All right, so let's get into, one of the things that people always ask, at least me, and I'm not at your level, but people ask me, and they're like, what is it that, a secret or two, we're starting off at the 50,000 foot level.
Yeah.
What is it that you would say has been either a secret to your success? And I know we talked about it in the bio, and maybe that's the answer. But what would you say has been kind of like a secret to your success moving forward as you got going?
Two things come to mind. There's a lot of things, obviously, but two things come to mind that are real from a high level. The first is that place more importance on the relationship than the transaction.
I love that.
I would say that doing business with people is it's more rapport. It's more your ability to connect with people and build relatability between you and them. make friendship first and then business next, you know? So,
Mm,
and the
mm,
friendship can't be contingent on the business. So in other words, if you're making friends because you want to do business with them, that's going to come off as being really inauthentic. So it really has to be like I go through life making friends with people that I want to be friends with. And then some of them I end up doing business with. And so that's where my main focus is. It doesn't mean that I won't sit down with somebody and talk business from the start, but usually there's some level of relatedness between us before we do business together. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And the second thing is that in business in general, there are insurmountable, seemingly insurmountable obstacles that will come up along the way. In every project that is worthy of doing something with, there's going to be huge obstacles. And what most people do is when they experience those obstacles, they quit.
right.
And that quitting is not a great strategy for success, because on every journey, there are going to be hundreds of obstacles that are difficult. And
Right.
a great entrepreneur will dig deep and find the resources and the connections necessary to navigate the resources, the knowledge base, the community necessary to navigate those challenges, to come up with solutions. You know, the people that make the most money are the people that are the best problem solvers.
Right.
And so, so that's, you know, on your journey, whether you're a network marketer, whether you're a small business owner, or even if, you know, let's just use those as examples, a small business owner or a network marketer or a salesperson. In order to get to the big bucks, in order to get to the big success, you have to make a conscious decision that you're going to work through the challenges versus quitting when things get tough.
I love that because, you know, I was dealing with that. One of the things I've talked about with that is that, and you tell me if this has been your experience, but here's how I've described it to people, where right after you make a decision to do something, but before you're able to get the result of having taken the first action. Okay, so you've taken a step. I want to, I don't know, work with this person, buy this program, do this thing. Okay, but the, you know, the program's next week or
Right.
whatever. You know what I mean? It's not there. There's a space, and in that space is a vacuum. And I have found that not only does that vacuum, if left to its own devices, people who are less than successful give in to what they think is the, you know, I don't know, my intuition or
Right.
my this or my that, when it actually is in my opinion, and again, if you agree, that's great, I would hope so, is the idea that a lot of times that inner voice is an inner critic. Like it's setting you up. One of the things I talk about is the brain is an unreliable narrator. The brain is designed to keep us safe. It's not necessarily designed to help us grow and develop. Okay. And what we think is, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't do this because we're going to help you, actually is just the small ego self trying to protect him or herself from you moving forward and growing. What do you think about that? And what's been your experience?
Yeah. Well, what came to mind when you were saying that, and I know it's related, probably loosely related, but it's related, is that the challenges are tests. It's like,
Right.
so for example, I say I want to be a helicopter pilot. That doesn't mean I deserve to be a helicopter pilot. I just want to be a helicopter pilot. I don't deserve to be a helicopter pilot until I've passed all the tests. And I don't mean the actual FAA written test and the flight, you know, flight check and all that stuff. I don't mean that. I mean the personal tests.
Right.
Like when you're scared out of your mind because you know that day you're going to be doing auto rotations, which is essentially disconnecting your engine from your rotor, and it's basically like an engine off landing.
That sounds exciting.
Helicopter, you got to practice hundreds of those with an instructor, and then you have to do them on your own, and it's scary the first 30 times you do it. You don't want to go down there and do it because it's scary, you know, and it's those kinds of tests that you have to pass those over and over and over and over again on your journey of whatever it is that you want to achieve or accomplish. And then you deserve it. Like I deserve to be a pilot after I've passed all the tests. For me, it took 2 years. Now I'm still passing tests. You know, there's always new challenges that you're faced with. So yeah, so you got to ask. So it's like if you're not, I do an exercise where, and I saw this many years ago. It was intention. It was oh shoot, hope I can remember it. I may not be.
Take your time.
Result. Intention plus mechanism. Intention plus mechanism equals result.
Okay.
Intention is what you want to do. Mechanism is how you're going to do it, and then
okay.
Result. So I plus M equals R. Intention plus mechanism equals result.
Okay.
What I do is I grab somebody from, I'll say there's 500 people in the crowd, and I'll grab somebody that raises their hand to come up to the front of the room, and I'll put them on one side of the stage, and I'll go on the other side of the stage, and I'll say to them, your intention is to be over here with me. And they go, okay. And I go, how are you going to get from where you are to me? And they say, well, I could walk, I could run, I could skip, I could crawl, right? So those are all mechanisms. It's how they're going to get to me.
Right.
They choose to walk. Okay. So I go, now what's your intention? Your intention is to be over here with me, right? What's your mechanism? I'm going to walk. And what's the result you're looking for? The result is you're going to be over here with me. I'm like, okay, go.
Right.
They start walking, and they go walk about 3 or 4 steps, and I go, stop. And they stop. And I go back. And they go back. Now I tell the crowd, don't say a word. No coaching from the crowd. Now I say, now what's your intention? Your intention is to be over here with me. How are you going to get here? I'm going to walk. Look, come on. They take 2 or 3 steps, and I go, stop. And guess what? They stop. And I say, go back. And then they go back. I do this about 4 or 5 times, and then I stop the exercise and I say, come on over here. So they come over and they go, what's your intention? Your intention is to be here.
Right.
What's your mechanism? Okay. And then I go back. Now, finally, they realize that when I say stop, they don't have to stop. Right. They can just come on over.
Right.
Those are those self-imposed limitations that we put out there. We put on ourselves, we place on ourselves that keep us from doing it. It's an imaginary barrier.
Right.
So wherever you are, that's your intention.
Right.
No. My intention is to make $10,000 a month.
No.
Because, and like if you're really honest with yourself, what you're not doing that are self-imposed limitations that are keeping you from making $10,000 a month. Like, that if you really wanted to do it, you could talk to 5 people a day. You could send a 2-minute video to 5 people a day. You can do that, but you're not doing it for a specific reason.
Right.
Right. That's what it's going to take to get you there.
Right.
Right. Because you've heard it over and over again. You've taken notes. You've read all the books, but you're not doing it. That's like me going, stop. It's not real.
I love that. That is so funny because it's listening to who they think is an authority, but all you said was, "Oh, I just don't want to do this," or don't do that. That's so funny. Let me ask you this: when you talk about the intentions, let's build off of that point, which is the idea of as you're going, like in network marketing in particular, okay, in network marketing in particular. Have you found a through line in terms of what's holding people back from their intentions? So have you found, like, I don't know, some maybe even a basket of reasons that, in your experience?
It's what people are holding on to.
Okay.
It's holding on to. It's like, I'll tell another quick story. So I was in Florida. I think we were in Mexico. I'm sorry. I was on the beach in Mexico, Cabo.
Okay.
And I wanted to get a workout in. The gym opened at 6. Excuse me.
Okay.
The gym was down the beach. It was a freestanding building on the beach. I woke up that morning and my hotel room was right on the beach. And I woke up and I looked out and there were very dark, ominous storms out on the beach. And it was very, very windy. And I could hear the wind whistling through the windows of the place where I was staying.
Okay.
I woke up at about 5:30. I got dressed. I walked out onto the sand, and it wasn't raining yet, but it was extremely windy. And I remember walking, like facing the wind to get to where the gym was, and I was like leaning into the wind because it was so strong.
Right.
I got to the gym and there were these wooden steps with peeling paint. And the gym was still closed. It hadn't opened yet. And I sat down on the steps, and off in the distance, I saw this post, and on the top of the post was this big pelican.
Okay.
And it was almost like silhouetted against the sky.
Okay.
And I sat and I was watching him, and he spread his wings out. He probably had a 5-foot wingspan. He spread his wings out.
Right.
The wind picks him up, and he's just hovering back and forth like this in the wind. And then he goes to fly off, and I noticed there's a tether that's attached to his ankle and to the post. So he gets about a 5-foot tether. Bam, he hits the end of that tether and falls down into the sand. And he kind of stands up and shakes himself off, and then spreads his wings, and the wind lifts him up, and he sits back up onto the post. And then he does it again. He spreads his wings, and the wind, lifts him up off the post, and he's hovering back and forth like this. And then all of a sudden he goes to fly again, and bam, he hits the end of the tether and then falls down into the sand. And he does that 3 times. And then I started thinking, it doesn't matter if that pelican found the best pelican flying coach that he could find. Right. No matter how good that coach is, right, he's still going to be tethered to that post. It's not about whether he can fly. He's perfect. Right. He's born to fly. Right. You were born to win. You were born to succeed. It's in your DNA. Right. A tree is born to grow. We are born to grow. Your business is born. Your business, you being attached to your business, it's meant to grow. However, if a tree is growing and starts to grow and you keep kicking it down, that tree's going to eventually get stunted or it's going to die. So anyway, that pelican was born to fly. It doesn't need a better flying coach. It needs to release the tether. Now, here's the truth. Everything I told you about that story is true, except there was no tether. Just like there's no tether. The tether is imaginary. In your life, my life, your life, the tether is imaginary. Whatever you're holding onto that's keeping you from flying. And built into your DNA, you were born to win. Built into your DNA is growth. Personal growth and business growth. It's all connected. It's all related. So if you're not growing, and this is related to the question that you asked me, if you're not growing, and I do this all the time. I go, okay, if I'm not growing in an area that I need to grow, that I'm wanting to grow, what is it that I'm holding on to? What beliefs do I have? What are my values that are keeping me from stepping into that next level of growth? What is it that I'm doing? Right. What do I need? How do I need to look at this differently? Who do I need to align myself better with? Who do I need to communicate better with? How do I need to reorganize things? Right. To be in a position where I can create growth again. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I love that.
And I look at my career, I was in 11 network marketing companies in 10 years and never made one penny. Never signed up one person. 10 years, 11 different companies. That's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And I was around people that were making money, and I would share with I'd share my business with a handful of people, less than 5, in a matter of a month or 2, and then they were all negative or they weren't interested, and I would think there was something wrong with the company or something was wrong with me. I couldn't do it, and I would quit. And I did it over and over and over again over the course of 10 years. And then my 12th company that I joined after those first 11, I joined my 12th company, and I finally realized that the reason I wasn't making it was because I was quitting whenever things got tough. Right. I made a conscious decision that as long as there was anyone in the company making money, that I would stick around no matter what. Right. There has to be. Right. Learn whatever lessons I needed to learn to get to the next level. Right. And sometimes it was just like to bring in my first person. Right. All right. To get my to get one of my people to bring in somebody else. Right. First recruit. Yeah. So I have a story where there's a book called Your First Year in Network Marketing by Mark Yarnell. Okay. Many years ago, and I've been written about in over 100 books. Okay. My story's it's in over 100 books, and the first book that I was ever written on had my story in was Your First Year in Network Marketing by Mark Yarnell. It was written in the early 90s.
Okay.
And Mark had contacted me. I'd never met him. He was the #1 money earner in a company called New Skin.
Yeah, NUSKIN.
Yes. And Mark was in Switzerland. He's very, very successful. And I had just finally, found my footing and was starting to grow in my network marketing business and doing very well. So well that Mark heard about it. And he's a legend, right? He's a legend. And his people reached out to me and asked if I would write something like, what was the toughest thing you've ever had to deal with and how did you get through it?
Right.
And I was in my 12th company, which was and I finally started signing people up. I figured out how to set up an appointment, simple things, figured out how to set up an appointment, figured out how to give a simple presentation. And I started doing that at a little coffee place on Mill Avenue. And over the course of the next 9 months or so, I had signed up around 7, 8 people, and one of those people started to grow, and his team grew to 40 people back in Peabody, Massachusetts. Now, my job was paying me $14,000 a year at the time. The airline that I worked for had filed bankruptcy. I had flight benefits. I was working for an airline, but I had no money. Didn't have money for a hotel room. Didn't have, there were no cell phones back then, but I decided to go, and I was going to go work with those guys. So I fly to Peabody, Massachusetts on my flight benefits. We're going to do a meeting at this guy's home. And it happened to be a day that there was this big blizzard, and there was no Uber back then. I rented a car, and it took me 2.5 hours to get to this guy's house, and it's a 20-minute ride with no blizzard.
Right, right.
So I get to the guy's house, and all the lights are out in the house. There's nobody there.
Right.
And I stood on the doorstep, not dressed for a blizzard, with wind blowing sideways, smoke coming down like crazy. It's dark at the house. I just came 1,000 miles across the country to meet with these guys. I ended up finding a payphone, and I'm standing outside in one of those payphones trying to get a hold of these guys, and their answering machine keeps coming on. I end up going and getting a Motel 6 because that's all I could afford. And then I flew back the next day, and I never talked to those guys or saw them again. So I wrote this story, and I remember standing on the doorstep thinking to myself, if anyone has a reason to quit the business right now, it would be me right now.
This second.
I'd already been in 11 companies. This was my 12th company. I'd already been in 11 companies in 10 years, and I quit all of them. And I made a conscious decision that I'm not going to quit this time. I'm going to go back, and that business, because I didn't quit, I stayed in the game, and I had many other things that happened along the way, but I grew a business of 85,000 distributors and 250,000 customers in that company. And Mark Yarnell told my story in his book, as one of his stories in his book. And that was a result of making a conscious decision of not quitting when things got really tough. Because it would have been so easy to quit after that. I had no money. I was I was all the way across the country. My entire team of 40, my first team of 40 completely disappeared. They felt like the weather was too bad to have a meeting and everybody quit. But I made it all the way across the country. That was my level of commitment.
Right,
so your level of commitment has to be 10 times that of everyone else.
I love that because, I think you hit a lot of good points, because one of the things that I talk a lot about is this concept of the unlocking the mindset of success, kind of getting out of your own way and unlocking the mindset of success. And I find for a lot of network marketers in particular, that it's exactly what you just said. There is I forgot what you said. It was the level of commitment and the level of what's standing in your way. That was right. I think, right? What is that you somehow are standing in your own way? You made the point of the 10,000. So if you're at 3 and you want to get to 5, what are you doing or not doing? Right. And I love that, because I think that a lot of times when people think about being able to grow their business, the network marketing business, they like to have a conversation about skill set. And there's definitely a conversation to be had about skill set. That's why we go to the conference. That's why we listen to Cody. That's why we listen to you. That's why we listen to Callie. Like, there's a skill set conversation, right? That's why we do that. But there's also a mindset conversation that, to your point about the Pelican, is something where people are able to a lot of where we're trying to go in a lot of ways is taking our foot off the brake. Is
Yeah.
my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's taking your foot off of that brake, because otherwise what happens, reading books, your points, reading books, taking notes, again, listening to people like yourself, maybe me too, and like doing all of those things, right? That's the gas, and that's great. But really, inner critic, self-talk,
Right.
negative self-concept, perfectionism, the inner critic. I already mentioned inner critic, monkey mind. These are things that are going on that are actually holding you back. I love that. I love that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then with you, and let me, before I forget, we have a free recording for you guys. If you want a recording of this, you should simply text 844-974-4245. That would be keyword Jordan. All right. So talk to us a little bit about when one of the things that people tell me is that they're doing personal production and they're going out and playing their game. And then they get some team members, but they're not like at 1,000,000 team members. Let's just say they've got, I don't know, under 50, but like it's not 100, team members. Okay. And they're getting their team members. And then they find that they take their eye off the ball. And I'm sure you've seen this. They take the eye off the ball in terms of their own personal production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they wind up suffering financially, and then they kind of go down a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been for either getting around that, or maybe, if you don't mind, let's stick with the mindset, since we kind of moved over to that conversation for a second. What's the mindset as somebody is switching from a personal growth production to more of a team leader, but we haven't quite gotten there yet?
Yeah. So I have a couple in my organization, Phil and Sheila. They're older now, but they had a business that was in that place where they had about 150 people, and their people were working, and they had just reached a milestone in their business, a promotion, and they decided they were going to reward themselves with a vacation. And so on their weekly team leadership call, they got their team together and they told everybody on their team they were going on vacation. And so they left, and then Phil contacted me out of the blue from his vacation, freaking out. And like, what's going on?
What could be the problem?
His group completely stopped working. Everybody stopped bringing people in. Everybody stopped getting new customers. And I'm like, Phil, did you tell everybody you were going on vacation? And he said, yes. And I said, well, they're on vacation too, because you're on vacation. All right. So they're taking a break too. You're taking a break. They're taking a break. When your team have all their eyeballs on you as the leader in the beginning, when you're maybe doing a weekly leadership live with your members.
Right.
You're the one that's actually throwing out the incentives, or you're the one doing the recognition, and all the eyeballs are on you. If you have not found other leaders that really want to take this and run with it, and really don't care whether you're the leader or not, people that are going to do it on their own without you, that don't really care whether you do it or not, until you get to that point, anytime you take a break, your team's going to take a break.
Let me interject 1 second, Jordan, because that's a great point. What I think I heard you say is, Bill Parcells said this a while back: you can't be responsible for the meal if you're not able to pick out the groceries. And it sounds like what's happening is, I think you're implying that you need to make sure that you have the right groceries per se, if you're trying to have a self-sustaining group of people who will continue to move forward. I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the beginning, it's just you, and the focus needs to be on bringing in new people.
That's exactly right.
But you only want to do what's worth duplicating. So when you have a team of, say, 20,000 people, you want to continue to do what you want your team members to do.
Interesting.
So the day you stop growing yourself,
interesting.
The day your business stops growing. So there does come a point where your business is so big that you become less of a focal point,
Right.
Because other leaders emerge within your organization and they run their own teams.
Right. Right. Right.
At that point, you've got real freedom. So,
Right.
Here's the way I like to frame it.
Okay.
For people. I was out at the British Virgin Islands with Donna and Thomas. They own a share in a large catamaran that has 4 cabins on it. And one night we were all out. The sun was going down, so we were getting a nice sunset. The water was calm, and we were sitting out on the deck of this catamaran, drinking wine and red stripe beer. And we had just had dinner. And we're out on this thing, watching the sun go down. And the captain and his wife were there. They were taking us around through all the islands and everything. And I asked the guy, I said, how long have you been sailing? And he said, well, I've been sailing here with my wife for the past 28 years. I go, wow, 28 years. I said, when did you get, where did you get trained? And he said he got trained in San Diego. I go, when was the last time you talked to your instructor? And he said, oh, 25 years. We haven't talked to our instructor in 25 years. I go, interesting. And I said, how often do you sail? Oh, as long as the weather's good, we sail every day. And then I looked out onto the horizon and there were hundreds and hundreds of sailboats off on the horizon in all different directions, in the harbors and out at sea or out in the bay. And then I started thinking, there's sailboats, there's thousands, there's millions, there's millions of sailboats all over. And I thought, some people go and get trained and they sail. They get trained to sail, and while they're in training, they decide it's not for them and they quit.
Right.
Some people are going to get trained to learn to sail, and after they get their certification to sail, they never sail again.
Right again.
Some people get certified to sail. They buy a sailboat. They sail for a year, and then they meet somebody, and that person is not so interested in sailing, and they decide to give it up.
That's exactly right.
Some people sail 3 or 4 times a year. Some people sail 3 or 4 times a year for a few years.
Right.
Some people sail and they'll sail for 2 years and then they'll hit a reef and they'll put some damage on their sailboat that sinks the sailboat and they don't have the money to fix it. So they stop sailing. Other people, like this guy and his wife, will sail for 28 years. And here's my job this is the way I look at it. The instructor probably trained hundreds of people to sail, and some people quit. Some people sailed once in a while and quit. Some people sailed once in a while and are still sailing. Some people sail for the rest of their lives. Some people become trainers of sailors. So my job as a network marketing leader is to teach people to sail and then set them out to sea so they can enjoy their dream. Right. My job is not to tether themselves to my boat.
Right.
Most network marketers, they get a couple people started, they tether those people to their boat, and there's no space. Then you don't have freedom, and neither do they.
That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it, because what happens is it's almost like an over-reliance. It's actually it almost precipitates a codependency. Because you are inadvertently not allowing the people in question to grow in your desire to maybe protect, maybe to whatever, but in your desire to do that, it's actually counterproductive.
Yes.
Because you're not letting them grow, is what I'm hearing you say.
So every day you want to be training new people to sail. So my job as a network marketing professional is to get people started, and then as quickly as possible, make sure they have everything they need to succeed without me.
Okay.
I'll always be here for them. I'll answer their questions. I'll do meetings for them if they ask me to do meetings for them, like if they get people together on a Zoom. I'll have a leadership call once a week, all that kind of a leadership live once a week, all that.
Okay.
But my job is to make them independent so they don't need me. That gives me freedom, but it also gives them freedom. They have all the tools. They have everything they need to succeed. But I don't need them to need me to succeed.
Right. And that's the fundamental difference between network marketing and pretty much every other business on the planet. Right. It's being able to do that, but independently. All right. Let me ask a question, and this will wrap us up. Let me ask one more question, because this is for people who are doing this part-time. Okay. So there's a population of people who are not doing this full time, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine.
Most people.
Okay.
Most people.
Yeah, right. Good point. Right. Right. Probably 3 out of 4. You're absolutely right. Most people are doing this part time.
Right.
So one of the things that I've run into and I've talked to people about, and I'd love to hear your answer on this, is when they're doing it part time, how do they get out in front of people without, in their mind, diluting the business that they're already doing? So I'm wondering if your answer might be back to commitment. I wonder if your answer might be to the alignment of the business. I'll throw that out. It's a tricky question.
When you say so they've got another business over here, or they've got a job, and they don't want to dilute that with their network marketing activities.
Yeah, and it would actually be mostly another business. Where I've heard it is not necessarily from another job, like a corporate job. Where I've heard it and seen it is where people have another business. So they might be, I'm just making this up, they might be a real estate agent, and they might be at XYZ, cards or whatever, right? And then they're like, oh, I want to be able to get this out more, but I'm still in real estate.
Yeah, I would caution people of trying to integrate their two businesses.
Okay.
I don't think that's healthy, and it ends up creating confusion on the part of your customers. It just does.
Okay.
I see people try and do that, and I don't think it ever ends well.
Okay.
So I suggest separating the two.
Okay.
So if you're a realtor, you do real estate over here. If you become friends with somebody that you sold a home to, and then you separate from the real estate stuff and say, let's sit down and talk business outside of that, that's fine. But when you're showing a home, to talk about your business is not a good idea.
Nor is it, yes.
Or vice versa. Yeah, I just think,
right.
I think you want to really compartmentalize the businesses. I know, like, I had a job when I still had my job when I was working my 12th company that I finally had success.
Right.
And our company was in bankruptcy, and so there were a lot of people losing their jobs. So I had people that I could say, hey, come, let's sit down, and I want to share some things with you that I'm doing in case we lose our jobs, something else I'm doing. So, but even in that scenario, I ran into trouble because the bosses at the company, even though the company was in bankruptcy and laying people off,
right,
they weren't comfortable with me sharing my business with people that were employed with that company, because that's where I met those people. And so I actually got a letter in my file. I didn't care because I knew I was
done. Right,
yeah.
right.
But and I knew, like, my goal was to never work a job again, and that was my last job. It was in 1993 was
right,
the last time I ever worked a job. So that was
okay,
that was 30 years ago.
right.
Yeah, 30 years ago was the
Right.
last time I had a job.
Right.
And but I did get in trouble, and I had people on my team that got in trouble for recruiting or not cross recruiting, but for talking with people in our company about our business. So I said, I do recommend keeping it as separate as you possibly. I tried to keep it separate, but it just was very difficult to do because of the circumstances. But I would keep it as separate as possible and not cross-pollinate. And it does require it's not an easy transition. It requires a big commitment. I mean, I recommend that you give up a few things. Give up TV for, like, I literally unplugged my TV, and for 25 years, I didn't have a TV in anywhere. Like, I didn't have a TV to watch sports. I didn't have a TV to watch movies.
Right.
I didn't have a TV to watch the news.
Right.
But what I focused on was my personal development and on building the business. And because of that,
Right.
I have a financially free lifestyle today. I've got I've got an incredible lifestyle that takes me all over the world. In fact, this year, post-COVID, hopefully, I'm going to the French Riviera. I'm going to Hawaii for 10 days. I've got that planned next month. I'm doing a lot of domestic trips, but I've got a lot of travel, and I'm doing things that I could never, ever, ever even think about doing if I still had a job. But the price, I had to pay a price.
Right.
And the price was giving up stuff that really didn't contribute much into my life. The truth is, and then also, if you've got a family and you've got young kids, you've got to make some concessions and have some conversations with your family to be able to carve out the time outside of what it is you do to pay your bills,
Right.
be able to build your future. You got to carve out some time to do that. And it's a challenge, and it's doable though. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have done it.
I love that, and that gets to mindset a little bit as well, in terms of having that not only discussion with the people, but also the mindset as well. This has been some good stuff. One of the things I always tell people at the end of the show is I actually come in and I talk a little bit about developing a mindset of success in recruiting and business building. If you want to be able to have me come in for a weekly team meeting or something of that nature, text 844-974-4245, keyword speak. We can chat and we can talk a little bit about this. Jordan, my goodness, this has been great. I really, really appreciate it. I know we didn't really, meet for that long, but to be able to talk and to be able to, I feel, have a good conversation, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Great
Where can people find either your book or some of the other stuff that you've got going on before we
follow me on Instagram at BeachMoneyJordan, and my books are available on Amazon.
Okay.
And then also we've got a Facebook group called Momentum Makers.
Okay.
Join the Momentum Makers group. There's a lot of exciting things going on there as well.
Okay, cool. Well, cool. Well, that is Jordan Adler, one of the more successful people in network marketing. My name is Brian Hilliard, saying so long, take care, and thank you so much for your time.
Bye, everybody.